What's going on, guys? Jay the Black here. Salute to everyone that is tuning in. I want to talk about Emmanuel Acho. Emmanuel Acho was one of the casualties of the recent FS1 cuts. Him along with Joy Taylor and I believe some others as well. The shows that they were both working on were all scrapped. Not only was Emmanuel working with Joy Taylor on Speak, he also had a show he was leading, which I never watched one episode of. But that show was given to him by Chuck Dixon. Now, Chuck Dixon is a very interesting person because his name was brought up in a lawsuit earlier this year that ruined his tenure at FS1. He ended up getting fired because he was named in not one but two lawsuits that I believe FS1 quietly settled. I believe he was let go in April, right after the second lawsuit. And now you have the people that Chuck Dixon brought in, who he gave shows to, they're all gone. And I want to speak about Emmanuel Acho because Emmanuel Acho is a very interesting character. Keyword is character. When you look at Emmanuel Acho's social media, he comes across as a genuine guy who's religious. He's a brother in Christ. You know, he takes a very milquetoast approach to everything. He's always on the fence. He's on everybody's side. Nothing wrong with that, but it just shows that he doesn't take risks, which is not going to help him in finding a new career or a new network to work in, especially in sports. There could be options. There are the CBS, Paramount, maybe ESPN, NFL Network. They're very specific about the people they bring in. So I don't know what his future career prospects is. I know he's written, I believe he wrote a book before, but the thing about Emmanuel is that he puts on a show, and we're going to talk about why I believe it's a show. I look at him getting fired, and he's a guy who you gave him a second show. Well, I believe Chuck Dixon gave him a second show because they believe he had potential. How do you go from having potential to being fired? It tells me that there were other people at that network who felt like he was undeserving of the spot that he was in. They didn't feel like he was talented enough, and they felt like they could do a lot better without him. And I'm not going to sit here and ignore the elephant in the room and the fact that the rumored relationship that he had with Joy Taylor, I believe that played a part into him being released as well, because he was brought up during the lawsuit earlier this year, and there could have been something possibly going on. I don't put it past Joy Taylor. She's not attached to anybody. She's willing to sleep with Chuck Dixon for a job, multiple jobs on FS1. Because if you look at Joy Taylor's career, let me just speak about her real quick. You look at Joy Taylor's career. She went from being on Undisputed, then she was on Colin Cowherd's show, and then she ends up doing Speak. I believe this was after Jason Whitlock left, and I believe Marcellus Wiley as well. And we're going to get to Marcellus Wiley because Marcellus had some things to say, and he does not think very fondly of Emmanuel. That's why I say Emmanuel is a character. He's a character. He portrays a certain character when really behind the scenes, he may be a bit of a dirtbag. Now, I think it's very unfortunate that this man could have lost his life due to his connection, not only with Joy Taylor, but with Chuck Dixon. But if you look at, and I advise everybody to go and check out Marcellus Wiley's live stream where he spoke about the firings, and he specifically talked about Emmanuel Acho. He spoke about Emmanuel Acho's character and how Emmanuel Acho at first, you know, because Emmanuel Acho wanted a job, so he was trying to be cool with Marcellus to get his foot in the door, and when he had an opportunity to get there, he was going back to Chuck Dixon, possibly others, speaking negatively about Marcellus Wiley because he wanted Marcellus' spot. Now, I can get into the dynamics of Emmanuel Acho. He is an African brother. I don't hold that against him, but it was just so easy for him to backstab Marcellus, who is a foundational brother here in America. I think those dynamics do matter because if you, Emmanuel, as a melanated man, is willing to backstab another black man for his job, I would say you getting fired is karma. And if we look at the dynamics, and again, I'm not one of these people that's this versus that. I'm not one of those people, but I have to point out the cultural differences. Emmanuel comes from one culture, even though I believe he was raised here in America, possibly born here as well. Family is from not from here culturally, but the fact that he was willing to throw another black man under the bus in order to get his spot. I just don't feel bad for Emmanuel Acho, because if he's willing to do that to him, I just can't respect that. And also, if he's engaging in a relationship with Joy Taylor, a very toxic woman, I'm sure he probably knew that something was going on between her and Chuck Dixon, but he wanted to be Chuck Dixon's boy so badly. And again, this is according to Marcellus. You know, there were things he probably knew and was privy to, and he kept to himself. I just think this whole dynamic is the irony. You know, all these people and their stooges are gone, and all it took was a lawsuit or two to really expose what's going on there. I mean, FS1 had a lot of like bad TV. No one cared about FS1 as a network, especially after Colin Cowherd's show went off the air. They just didn't have the right mixture of talent and show ideas in order to maintain their jobs. You put these people on multiple shows, you could like the fact that they gave Emmanuel Acho a second show, because they said that they probably wanted to separate him and Joy, but they were still on speak. So they didn't separate that much. You look at this and it shows you how these dudes will be one way publicly. He'd be a brother in Christ, milk toast. He's a friend of everybody's. He's rooting for everybody. But behind the scenes, he's willing to stab another black man in the back in order to get their spot. And then when the guy that is giving you all these shows, he gets fired, and right then and there, they had no protection at that network. And the network is looking at the numbers. They're looking at, okay, why? First off, this show was doing horrible with Joy Taylor. Didn't have LaShawn McCoy, Paul Pierce on this show. The show's doing terribly. Why is this show on the network? We need to get rid of the show. Yes, we getting rid of that too. That's what it was about at the end of the day. Listen, people, I have nothing against Emmanuel Acho, but he did this to himself. This is the ultimate karma, because you were too busy trying, instead of you working to get your own position, you worked to take somebody else's position. Again, this is according to Marcellus Wiley. I don't think Marcellus is lying. I don't think he's lying. And it's sad, because again, you present yourself as something on your socials, but in reality, you're someone else. And let's get to your viral opinions, because I was really baffled at why people thought his opinions mattered. His opinions don't matter, but I would see people get in their feels over his opinions doesn't matter. I mean, he takes the most middle of the road, safe opinions, which is why Fox Sports had no issue getting rid of him, because he's like, man, we could bring in a bunch of Emmanuel Achos. Nothing he does or says is really going to help us. That's why Skip Bayless ended up leaving. Undisputed was a failure because Skip stopped being Skip. He started to take the safe route instead of being who he is. And the thing is, Skip would always expose himself when he gets into these arguments. He's on their arguments, right? He would always expose who he is. But for the most part, he would try to be different. I don't know if because the network executives were telling him to, but it torpedoed that show. Undisputed was supposed to be the crown jewel of FS1. And that show went completely under after Shannon Sharpe left. Listen, again, I'm going to say this. Karma's a bitch. It really is. And you as a man, you got to handle your business. You really do. And you got to be a man. Don't go out here dirty macking. Don't go out here trying to play games with supervisors or bosses to try to get other people's spots. And the fact that he did that, I didn't even know that until I watched Marcellus's live stream. Then you get your insight on these people and how fake they are, how really fake they are. And the thing is that Emmanuel thought that Chuck Dixon was going to be there and would watch his back and he'd be his stooge and he'd be there forever. And he found out that just wasn't the case. There's a certain man code you have to have. And I want to believe that Emmanuel Acho's a good dude. I mean, he seemed like it publicly. But to me, if you're behind the scenes trying to take another black man's spot, I have zero respect for you, and you pretty much got karma for what you did. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like this video, share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check out all the other videos you should see appearing on the screen. I'll see y'all next one.